Yo, what a shaking, everybody. Welcome back. It's your brain on a vinyl. I'm here with my guy, the groove seeker himself, Chris. Chris, what's going on, man?
What's up, Jason? Good evening.
Good evening. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. The show.
I knew there was a band called the Happy Mondays. I was actually somebody actually confirmed that in the chat a few weeks ago. So every Monday is a Happy Monday now around here. So thanks everybody for being here today. Of course, we're going to talk about how bad reissues suck, or are we? So we kind of want to get into that narrative. I think last week, our whole goal here, right, is to just put these complicated topics to rest. Last week, what we put to rest last week, digital versus analog. We got the final word on it. This week, we want to get the final word on reissues versus OGs. We always talk about it. I get it. It's like, what else are you going to talk about around here? You got digital versus analog. You got OGs versus reissues. You got graded records now. But we want to get into it a little bit. Mostly, we just want to give our viewpoints and get your viewpoints as well. What's up, AA in the house? David Nelms, what's happening? And just have like a real dialogue about this, you know what I mean? Without a bunch of, I don't know, rhetoric around it. How does that sound, Chris?
Sounds good.
Yeah, I mean, look, reissues have always been a thing. Reissues have been a big thing since like the vinyl resurgence. You could say, I don't know where you want to draw a line in the sand. I think there's a couple different lines. I mean, you got Record Store Day was a big one, right? That was kind of if you look at the graphs of the popularity of vinyl, you look at Record Store Day, all of a sudden it goes like this, right? Up and to the right. And, same thing goes for like when the pandemic hit. And so I think each of those moments really kind of spawned a whole bunch of like interest in vinyl and of course reissues. Reissues have been, well, we've talked about it here. Groove Seeker's had his issues with the quality control. Many people have. But, notwithstanding, although that is part of the conversation, it's sort of like there's also a narrative around, don't even bother with reissues. Just go for the OGs or get yourself an audiophile pressing. It's the only way. Rhino is putting out, whatever, fill in the blank. Acoustic Sounds is putting out, fill in the blank. But so I don't know. We just want to give our opinion on that stuff and just see, when does it matter? Does it matter? And just how to navigate the waters of OGs versus reissues. So accessibility, Chris. Why don't we kind of go to, I got a little list here. Maybe we just kind of go down the list. So reissues from an accessibility standpoint, good or bad?
As far as like putting things in print that should be in print.
Exactly. Just making them available.
Yeah, very good.
I mean, everything from scarce records have been reissued. Mm-hmm. Stuff that has been sort of out of reach for a lot of us for a long time, either just not available or super pricey. Jazz is a perfect example of that. Mm-hmm. Blue Note has done a great job of reissuing their catalog, but also just even common records, getting reissues and stuff like that. And accessibility from the standpoint of, for a long time, we could really only buy our records on eBay or Discogs when they fired up and stuff like that. It wasn't like we were walking into a Target and Walmart and seeing records everywhere. So that's another sort of layer to that. Any thoughts around that? I mean, look, it's hard to talk about this without, and I don't want to get cynical about it, right? Because I really want to get into the good of this stuff. Is there space to be cynical about that, Chris? In the sense that, like, are these companies jumping on the bandwagon? Is this a cash grab? Is this just trying to exploit people that are just getting into the hobby? What are your thoughts around that?
I don't really believe in cash grab. I don't believe in that statement, because if it's a cash grab would be exploiting people. A cash grab would be like like let's say Nevermind's out of print for like 20 years, and then somebody puts out somebody gets the rights to it and puts out 1,000 copies worldwide for $150. Nothing special about it, it's just rare. And then a year later they reissue it wholesale. Like that's a cash grab to me. Like kind of this like trap to create FOMO artificially on people. But that doesn't really happen. I don't believe in cash grab, because if people are buying it, there's no cash grab involved. Like there's no exploitation. You're making a choice to go into a store and order it. I think what's frustrating is where I get a little bit concerned about the funnel of the reissues is that it does seem to be that the same titles are getting reissued over and over again by different people. And I do think that there's some fun in that comparison and deciding like which reissue is better. But I think like the effort of diversity is being addressed subtly by some labels. And I can't really fault them if they're going to keep on putting rumors in print and everybody keeps on buying it. Like, dudes, people need to go seek out a reissue of it. There's probably excess available of like vintage pressings in good condition or whatever that you can scoop. But if that's what people are going to buy, that's what they're going to buy. Like, that's the consumer driving the production.
Well, and in that case, is that two different customers? Someone like you or I is going to jump on Discogs, find one that's nice. We're going to, maybe save it to our want list. When the bell goes off and it's in a price range we're comfortable with, we're going to snag it. We're going to go to a used record store maybe and find one. But there's a whole contingency of buyers now that are going to Walmart and Target, and they just need the easy accessibility. They're not maybe as savvy as us hardcore people are, or whatever you want to call it, right? They just want to go to a damn Walmart and pick up a rumors.
Yeah. Well, I think I fall into the category of what's popular now. I buy mostly reissues, and I will buy used records. I will buy used records like as part of the hunt. So I just have more. I just find joy in like going into a store and finding something that's pre-owned, that might be a early press or a vintage press or a rare record, rather than me going on Discogs and searching for it. That's just how I kind of also keep myself in check. I was telling Arnaldo yesterday, like I don't even have a want list on Discogs. There's like 5 or 6 things on it right now. So I probably would disappoint a lot of people that I don't necessarily go for OGs all the time or go out of my way. And now there's some things I'm looking for OGs, like, but has to be immaculate, and I'd be willing to pony up for like special records. But like most of the time, like the reissue gets me to where I want to be and I'm happy. I don't want to really chase the dragon. I'm not interested in that. The dragon I'm chasing is getting my library. And if the reissues do a good job, that's cool with me. I like some of the series that are out. I like the Bluesville series. I like the fact that like every couple of months there's 2 new titles coming in, and they're going to come in the mail when the release comes. I like the OJCs. I'm an AP 75 subscriber. I just like that idea, and I think a lot of them sound really good. The ones that I keep. So I'm pro reissue. I'm just not. I'm just. My critique of reissues has always been the QC lately, and just the saturation of the same titles over and over again. But if you go back to the CD age, like I worked in a music store, you were hard pressed to go a month or 2 of shipment without like a 30 count of Dark Side of the Moon coming in. It wasn't a new version of it. It was just a repressed reissue on CD.
Right.
Or Nevermind or Abbey Road, or it's like that trend's always going to be. I think where I start getting really concerned is if you start seeing, Fleetwood Mac rumors on sale everywhere for $10. Then I'd say like, all right, we really have a big saturation problem, but I can just kind of see it going there. And the last thing I'll say on that is like, you knock whatever series you want. Like Rhino Hi-Fi has been kind of splitting it up. Like I know they're going to reissue Black Sabbath again, but then they're doing that Alice Cooper record. Like that's cool. You know, they're trying to branch out. You know, they have that other Rhino Reserve. They started off with 2 titles. Like one is highly sought after, I guess, really hard to get an OG clean, and the other one's an album, the Alan Toussaint, that should be out there for people. It's a great record, and not enough people know about it. So, I as I move into that direction, I become a little bit more comfortable with the whole idea.
Cesar, shout out Cesar. Chris, one advantage of buying reissues versus OGs, you can probably get more records if you buy a reissue, less expensive for the most part. OGs are pricey nowadays. Yeah, and I think most people probably try to get some kind of balance, right? Because I feel the same way. Like, and especially when building a collection or curating a collection is develops over time, I feel, right? It's like maybe the first layer is I just want all the records I want to listen to now in the short term, be it reissue or OG. The Cure is a perfect example for me. As I've been rebuilding my collection over the last 5 or 6 years, and the Bauhaus and Susie, I was fine with the reissues. And then I got to a point where I was like, okay, now I'm ready to start, not FOMO out, but like when they become available for a good price, I'll start supplementing out and just doing it over time as opposed to just like trying to break the bank immediately. Like I need to have all these reissues right now. It's kind of do it that way too, Cesar. So maybe, yeah, I mean, Cesar makes a great point, is that you can build a collection. And it depends too, right? Because it depends on the record, because there's a lot of reissues that are going to be more than originals for way more common stuff, right? Let's talk about Phil Collins or Genesis or, just common stuff like that. B-52s and, there's a million other records that fall into that $5-10 range, 80s soul and R&B and that kind of thing, which I've been getting into lately. Man, I haven't spent $20 on a record yet. Now, none of that stuff's getting reissued. It's as if no one really cares about it, so it's flying under the radar. But there are cheap heat or whatever you want to call it that you can pick it up too. But Cesar, you're right. I mean, economically, let's talk jazz. I mean, 100%, dude. If you're buying reissues, you're going to put it together. If you just buy classic series, which Chris just told me that, by the way, Blue Note, it has all their classic titles for like 50% off. So you should go check it out, guys, if you like jazz. But that's the thing, is that you can go get those now for 15, $20 a pop, as opposed to $200, $300, $400 if you want an OG. So that's a perfect example of what Cesar is saying. Build that collection for pennies on the dollar by buying reissues for the most part.
Yeah, and like even on your Cure example, like I guess a couple of years ago, I was in a retail store. They were having like a 35% off sale. I just went to the Cure section. And I just picked all of it up because I just like I don't have like I had like one or two,
Yeah.
not reissues. Like let me just fill in what I have. So to Cesar's point, like that's a great way to do it.
Yep.
I've said like a lot. I wouldn't have all the records I have if I was buying OGs, and there's part of me that like would want to start over and maybe do it a little bit differently, but I'm just not sure I right now I care that much about every record having like the best sounding pressing, as long as it's not atrocious. And some are
Right.
clearly atrocious, even without a comparison standpoint. Then like it's fine. It's more about the library. And I always go back to this. I grew up on CDs, so to me, every record's an audiophile pressing because of what my reference point is, and it's
So
an
now
audio.
you have the DAC.
Yeah, well, it's an audiophile medium
Right.
too. So it's what I prefer. And to your point about digital, it's like you can have everything at your fingertips, but I want to have a library. It's always been a part of my identity as a person, so
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
AA says you only need OGs for those sentimental cherished albums, I think. Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a time where fortunately the OGs that I grew up with aren't that pricey. So I've been able to amass a nice collection of the stuff that I grew up with, which is the majority of my collection. I'm not going to say cheaply because, again, the Cure is a perfect example. Some of these records if you want to complete your Cure OGs, you're going to be spending 60, $70 unless you get a nice deal. But for the most part, yeah, it's been, just kind of putting that collection back together again. And fortunately, a lot of that stuff is going to be, fairly affordable. In terms of the cash grab, but the last thing I'll say about that too is just, I think it kind of implies too that it insults buyers in a way. Like I see people saying like, oh man, like, to piggyback on what you said about cash grab and not thinking that it exists for the most part, we all are either responsible or irresponsible with our money to whatever extent. It's like, I don't feel like I'm falling prey to anything. Like, I get what I want to get. I buy it when I want to get it. I try not to FOMO out. I'm a patient buyer for the most part. I understand not everyone is. And if you have the money, you don't have to be necessarily, right? You can go out and just buy the stuff when you want it. Buy 10 copies of this or that, or 20 copies. That's just not the kind of buyer I am. And it's a little bit insulting to think that, people are preying on FOMO or this. I mean, that's kind of, that's the responsibility of each individual buyer, right? So that's kind of the way I look at that.
The FOMO is over. For the most part. I mean, there's rare exception to that. Like, you're not seeing these one step small batch UHQRs like sell out. You're just not right away.
Yeah.
The whole pandemic thing is over. The supply chain issues are over. So I think that clouded people's perception a little bit. And the bird's on the labels. Like, if someone's going to press 15,000 copies of an audiophile record and they don't sell out of it, like, then they're going to learn that lesson and they're going to change their production going forward. But if it is selling out, then the market's talking to them. And I've been saying on the past couple of streams that, we're not the target market for record sales. Like, sorry, like, we're a niche elitist group of nerds. And I'm not like attacking us for that. It's like the facts. Like, if there's 5,000 people that watch, or 10,000 people that consistently watch like these videos on YouTube that are in the VC, that's a rounding error in the grand scheme of people who are buying records, I think, worldwide. It's just the facts. Like, the average college student who's got their record player and their parents' old records, and they're going out and buying, whatever's out in the retail store, they're just not watching these videos yet. And they might get there one day, but when they do get there, it's because they've gone on their journey so far that they're looking for the next step of it, just like any other hobby or any other activity that you're into.
Yeah, I don't know. I would disagree a little bit, maybe, just because I feel like the demographic for vinyl is, if you look at it, it's going to be people our age. It's going to be people 40s, 50s, 60s, in my opinion. I mean, that is going to be the target, not necessarily for the vinyl community, but absolutely. Actually, I think the point you just made is going to be for the vinyl community, because younger people aren't watching this stuff per se. And yes, younger people are into vinyl. Yes, I think there's a lot of younger people, and it's good to see it representing not the vinyl community, but representing records. Like, for example, Whatnot has used certain sellers to kind of promote their vinyl category on Whatnot. And oftentimes they're younger people. That's fantastic. Having said that, I don't know how realistic it is to think that young people are just going to carry the torch forever. You know what I mean? I feel like it is a lot of older people that are still kind of, the audiophile group or whatever. I don't know. It's just kind of my way of thinking about it. Now, having said that, I could be wrong. I know Arnaldo made an argument, and he works in the industry, that it is younger people that are buying records. That's not the data I've seen. And that doesn't make sense to me, actually. Because I'll tell you this, how many people do I know that collect vinyl that have actually, their kids, their grandkids are getting into this stuff? I mean, I'm a small sample size of one, but my kids could care less. They're going to keep streaming and their kids are going to stream and all that stuff. So,
well, I mean, the data is one thing, but I went to a mall on Saturday because Amazon was having a $5 and $20 sale, and then Newberry Comics, which is a chain I think just on the East Coast, was having a 30% off sale. So I went to Barnes and Noble, and that they have a very small section. I was the only person there who could probably drink who was looking at records. I'm telling you, I was hearing these kids. I was like, just by nature of working in a music store and stuff, like, or going to record stores, like, you just hear what they're talking about, and they were referencing albums that I grew up on as like classics, like referencing their parents talking about
doesn't
it.
it kind of that is kind of like hurts though, doesn't it? When people are talking about Nirvana like a classic.
Well, I'm not even talking Nirvana. I'm talking like Radiohead, OK Computer, which is like 96.
That's a classic. Eminem is so classic.
Yeah, and I could see them, like, I overheard some of the conversations in that store, like, I can only afford to get one, so, like, I it was all young people. Then I go to Newberry Comics, I thought I was getting stared at because I was, like, going through every record, and, like, I was by far the oldest person, and there was all kids, it was like mayhem, and they were all digging and grabbing and going up to the register, and I didn't see any parents or any other adults in there at that moment. Now that's like that's an hour and a half window on a Saturday night in America, right? But I telling you, man, I don't think that we are the target market anymore. I think we're a target market for mobile fidelity and analog productions and
Well, I was gonna say, who's buying
the
the
Rhino Reserve.
UHQRs, right?
Yeah, no,
It's
no
not
kid.
20-year-olds.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. And they shouldn't be unless they're, unless they have excess funds and they're it's like they're an extremist in the hobby already. If you started talking to a 20-year-old about UHQRs, you'd be like, "What do you do for work?" So, um,
Well, I like what you said last week too about, we got into like the hybrid of analog and digital, right? And so most young people are maybe going that route where, there's hopefully, look, I'm not someone that says like we have to protect vinyl for all time so that generations down the road can appreciate it. And I'm not going to say that because I don't appreciate the things that my grandparents appreciated. It's just how it is. We all move on, technology evolves, we evolve, whatever. I'm not going to be that person. But at the same time, I do think it's good, especially now that we're in a very digital world and moving forward into a world of AI and virtual reality and all this stuff, that people hold on to something analog, just something physical in general, because it's scary to think of a world. And again, I don't care about the record thing. I'm not saying kids have to go listen to records forever or they don't know what they're missing, but just something tangible, something tactile, something physical in life. Because, dude, pretty soon it's going to be AI everything. It's going to be, augmented reality, virtual reality, whatever. That is to me a gloomy future. I don't care. That's not an old man talking. That's just that seems kind of scary to me. So I think, for me, part of having vinyl is that tactile thing. It's having something I can touch. You know what I mean? And it's a bigger thing. It's not just like, oh yeah, I like analog versus digital. It's almost like, man, I just want to keep something tactile in my life as long as I can before they strap the goggles on your head and that's where you're living your life. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Maybe that's that's doom projecting or whatever, but I don't know, man. Let me go through some of these comments real quick. We got some good ones. Cesar, you can buy a Q or a reissue $35 versus OG's 8,200. Same with so many titles. Depeche Mode. Yeah, it's great that stuff is out there. People can make their choice. Like I said, a lot of the OG stuff held me over. For me, it's a nostalgic thing, right? I don't know how many. I don't. Yeah, I don't know. It's a nostalgic thing. That's all I can tell you. There are certain things where I do like having the OGs, but just the fact that stuff is available. And that, to Chris's point, young people can walk in that store and grab any Cure record, any Depeche Mode record, any Bauhaus record, or any of that stuff and take it home and listen to it. Like that's massive. AA says things like Rhino Hi-Fi catering to this pocket of the BC. I think labels know about the people who know about people like Matt Lutyens and Kevin Gray and Bernie Grunman. Yeah, to 20-year-olds know about those guys or care. I mean,
no, but let's not forget that Bernie Grunman also cuts pop records.
Yeah.
I mean, or Kevin Gray does it too. And they cut digital streams. They master that stuff. They're not exclusive to audio files. Those guys.
Yeah, I get that, but it's also, when did you start caring about engineers?
I don't care about engineers now.
But I mean, but
I'm not gonna not buy something because Bernie cut it or Kevin cut it. I mean, to me, it's like, to me, this is a controversial topic. They deserve their flowers for their contributions. And it's not recent contributions, it's historical contributions. But it doesn't persuade me or dissuade me from buying a record because one of them cut it. It's like, oh, you did a good job, like, great, or you didn't do a good job on it, not so great, but I'm not gonna write them off as, as the reason,
Yeah.
or give, or as the reason I'm not buying it or buying something.
Well, and that's the point I kind of was trying to make earlier is that now those guys are celebrities. They're on the hype stickers. They're on the hype stickers for old people, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
so I think that, it's like a person in their 40s, whatever, 50s is going to be like, yeah, Bernie Grunman. Okay, if it's got his name on it, that's the stamp of approval. That kind of thing. You know what I mean? So that's why I think they are in certain cases. And it depends on, we could go on forever about this. Certain series of certain records, certain price points, whatever, are catering to one type of collector, and certain are catering to the other type of collector, which is kind of the first point I made about like Walmart and Target and all that. Let me just kind of catch up on these music in the house. What's up, baby? Welcome. It's kind of nice when someone younger loves what you love when you were older. It's a door open to conversation for sure. And I think I'm also not saying it's about music. And I think the point you're making, music is yeah, vinyl, of course. It is it is a thing you can relate to young people with. But for me, it's like the music, relate to the music, share the music with your kids and your grandkids and stuff, and open those doors for them to go out then and just whatever media they want to go explore it on, then they can go love it on that media. Because like when my dad was in 1991, when I was trading in all my records for CDs, it was about the music, and I got to learn a lot about music from him. He wasn't pushing records on me. I just loved records anyway, but it was more him sharing his experience with music, I think. Cesar, agree, Chris. Last time I went to Barnes and Noble, all the teens and 20s going through records. Unfortunately, records are pricey, so they might get one record if they're willing to spend most of their money. I feel like it was the same way when we were kids, though. Records were expensive. It's all relative. I mean, yeah, I was probably making $6 an hour buying like I don't know, a $10 record or something. It was. I don't know. I feel like it was even back in the day. It wasn't like I could buy whatever I wanted. I was getting maybe one record a week or two.
So this kid in Newberry, I don't know what album he was looking at, but he said, "I'm gonna get this." He goes, "I worked 4 hours for this."
Wow.
I was like, "Damn." I was like,
There
I
you
I
go.
I I hear where he's coming from.
You're
Like,
buying a
that's,
record?
you're buying a record. I felt like saying, like, the CDs are right behind you.
Yeah. They're like
Like,
$2 a piece. Come on.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, actually, the CDs are super expensive in that store. All the
oh, really?
records are too. Yeah, I only go there when they have sales because then it makes it like sort of normal
I
price
gotta get
wise.
you some Spins Vinyl business cards, and you can just pass them out when you're there.
Yeah.
Um, in a way, we were lucky to live in a CD era, a lot cheaper. Yeah, exactly. Freight, what's up, Freight? I got my 10-year-old daughter a turntable for Christmas with some Taylor Swift records, also a Weem amp to stream. So she loves the stereo setup and listens to records occasionally now. Well, you can relate, Groove Seeker.
Yeah, my daughter's the same age as the Freight. Actually, she just she'll be 11. Um, but yeah, I got her like a LP 60 on Amazon Prime Day, and I gave her my old Marantz stereo receiver and my old Martin Logan bookshelves. So she has a pretty sick setup. And she's got a crate of her records, and she goes out and buys all the new Taylor Swift records, and she puts them on when she feels like it. And then she listens to the FM radio. I taught her about that. And then, but she streams all day and walks around the house with her iPod on, like on her shitty little speaker, and she loves it. So it's like she has everything accessible to her.
It'd be
Um,
interesting. No, I'd love to like when she gets a little bit older, maybe, or even now, I don't know, have a conversation with her. There's something about when we're introduced to something young, like it's how we discovered vinyl, at least for myself, because there was no other option, right? So it was vinyl or cassette tapes. And then as I got older, like that stuff's in my DNA. For a young person that isn't exposed to that stuff and you hand them a record when they're like 20, are they going to be like, it's going to be a whole different experience. Like your daughter might, and the same thing for Freight is this is going to become nostalgia for them because they're getting it when they're young too, which is interesting.
yeah, like she was telling me a story as she was at school, and she said something, and like they were in like library or something. And she said something about a record player, and the librarian was like, "What do you mean a record player?" And my daughter's like, "Yeah, I have a turntable." They're like, "Oh, that's cool." And all of her friends are like, "What the hell is that?" I'm
Yeah.
sure they didn't say hell, but um, and also it's like maybe she won't get into it. I don't force it on her. Like,
Yeah.
I'm always willing to take if I anytime I go record shopping, I always say, "Do you wanna come?" Most of the time, she's like, "No, I'm good." You know? And she doesn't ask for a record, and she doesn't play it. She probably goes weeks without playing it, and then she'll play it for, like, 4 or 5 days straight, and then she goes, back. So it'll be interesting if, like it'll be interesting to see, like, how it progresses with her, if it progresses at all. Like, maybe it's just something she'll always have and she won't go out and buy. I know that, like, even from a music perspective, like, my parents were influential, but my parents weren't nerds about it. Like, my parents couldn't tell you, for the most part, like, albums. They were just, like, listening to the radio all the time and, like, hit singles and the oldie station. And, like, yeah, they have some albums, but
When you say the
they
oldie
couldn't.
station, are you talking about Radiohead and Nirvana?
No, not yet. Um Yeah, no, they're, like the Motown, and, like, they were teenagers in the '70s, so they were kids when the Beatles came out, and then, like, Motown, and then obviously they were, like, big into, like, funk and disco and, like, into the '80s, but I'm sure maybe they can. I doubt my parents could tell me, like, you know, who the guitar player of the Commodores is. Like, they just but they know all the
Right.
hits, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's like I'm anyway, it's a long way of me saying is maybe it kind of skips a generation sometimes, where she just will have a different perspective on it, and she'll see it as like a novelty and a nice little thing that reminds her of her dad. But I don't know if she'll, like, be a collector. I think she would have had that bug hit her already. Um, but who knows?
Yeah. Let's see. AA talking about, yeah, it's seeing those names is always just a bonus, but wouldn't make a difference to me. Talking about engineers, I assume. David Nelms, interesting point would be, our labels providing tiles for collectors and consumers? It is a good point. I think if they're smart, they're doing both, right? I mean, that they're coming out with multiple kinds of series, like music. It's interesting because Music Matters was doing the blue notes for a while, right? And those are pricey, and now they're extremely pricey. And they're audiophile, quote unquote, 45 RPM double LP. And now they're doing Tone Poet and Classic, which are, I would consider, more affordable, right? I mean,
Yeah.
40 seems high, but it's also, I don't know. 40 seems high, but it's a gatefold. I know they're trying to, like, have two different price points and stuff. And then you got the UHQRs and stuff like that. So yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it
Uh,
seems like they're trying to for the most part, hit the different demographics and stuff. In my opinion, I don't know if it's not that way across the board, I guess. I don't know. It's like you can get like, to your point, Chris, you can go to Walmart, buy Rumors. Is there an audiophile pressing a Rumors out right now?
yeah, of course.
So
The
it seems like they're
double
trying to hit
45.
both. I guess. Let me just keep going through these, Chris, real quick. And I actually want to. We're about a half hour in. I kind of want to jump into another
Wait, can I
layer.
just make can I
Yeah,
make
yeah,
one comment about
sure.
the engineers, though? So I
Yeah,
also want people to think about this, because I kind of observed this. You have the person coming back into vinyl. If you're coming back into vinyl, you're probably at least, I think I'm on the young side of this VC. Let's just put it like that. So you're probably in your 50s, late 40s, 50s, 60s. If you're coming back into vinyl, you've heard Dark Side of the Moon 10,000 times. You've probably bought it 12 times in your life. But now, like, there's this new spin on it. Like, having the engineer be in the spotlight is like a new way to market it to
yeah.
somebody who's so familiar with. That's the only thing that makes it new. Dark Side of the Moon is not new for most people, but the idea that this engineer is doing it makes it new, and that
Right.
becomes like a tactic, I guess. So
Which again feels like it's targeted toward older people, not only to target older people that have the funds and all that stuff, but to talk about the engineer and everything. If people were talking about that stuff in the 80s, I never knew about it because I did not care. All I cared about was, oh, look, the Doors. And I would just grab it. I didn't care what label it was, what the pressing was. I would put it on my turntable, and if it didn't skip, I'd be hella happy. That's it. That literally is how far I went with it until I got here. You know what I mean? Like 2019, when, you come on YouTube and everyone's talking about it. And it's almost like a curse in a lot of ways. And like I told you, I know I've said this many times, Chris, on my New Year's resolution is to just, like, let some of that go, man. And just let it be
Mhm.
about the music. And to your point, like you said, like, you don't have to have the best pressing per se. And yeah, it's a graph of, like, price versus versus quality, quote unquote. But yeah, you know, you got to decide on each title, like what you're willing to kind of spend on it. But that's a new thing for me. You know, my whole life I just listened to, I didn't care. I just listened to music, and if you know, if I was listening, my ears weren't attuned to, oh, this sounds 2% better than that does. But now that we talk about it all the time, yeah, now it's in my head and I'm sort of like, wait, is there a better one of this? But to your point, I'm not chasing the dragon. I'm just not going to do that. Doesn't mean I don't want my music to be quality. Doesn't mean I want my music to be distorted or have excessive sibilance and this stuff that takes you out of the experience. It just means that there is a point where it's good enough. There is a point where it's good enough. My parents had see says Jill.
Mine did too.
It just puts a spotlight on how old I am. Okay. Can we do let's jump into something else. Is that cool, Chris? I know we kind of been on this for like
yeah. Sorry.
Not something else, but just another kind of slant on this. So how about quality? Some of these we talked about engineers, and look, if it was good enough for us and our parents back in the day, it should be good enough for everybody moving forward, is one way to think about it. However, reissues come in different flavors, and I'm talking about sound quality. We're not talking about quality control at this point. This could be a little bit of a not a quandary, but a pain point for people, because it confuses the issue when you say, here is a nice new reissue. I know we're in 2025. Technology being what it is, there's no reason this shouldn't sound just as good or better than what I was listening to when I was buying these back in the 70s or 80s. This is a $30 copy of this record. I'm just going to buy it and take it home and play it, and I know I'm going to love it. It's not that simple, though, is it? I mean, it just seems like this was what I had to get away from for the most part, because I've spent the last 5 years dreading the pressing wars, you know, and just saying, okay, go on Discogs, scroll down, look at all the reviews. This sounds like crap. This one has sibilance. This is distorted. This sounds compressed. Okay, this sounds awesome. And then you click on that one and it's like a $200 issue. So then you go back and you're scrolling. Man, dude, I spent more time researching every single pressing of a record trying to get one that would sound okay. I guess if there's a question in this, it's not consistent. It's not. There are reissues that suck and there are reissues that are great. And so you have to do some kind of research. You can't just go out and assume that everything you buy is going to be as good as what you've ever heard. That is where I think people are taken advantage of. That's where the cash grab comes in for me, is do a decent pressing, man. If you're going to do Sun Ra's catalog and put them out, you know, which I have like 4 of them that I bought of ones, you know, affordable series. I know you get what you pay for. I know you get what you pay for, but they sound like garbage. And it was like $40, you know, down the drain. It's just like, man, it's frustrating. I don't know what the question or answer is here, but maybe we can develop on that idea, the quality of these reissues.
I always go back to the Stone Temple Pilots first 2 albums getting reissued, and like you could get them in Walmart for like $10 on clearance, and they were all analog, cut by Bernie Grumman. They sounded fantastic, and I'm bringing that up because I feel like there should be transparency by the labels to say, like, this is where we cut it from and how we cut it, so people can decide. You know, I'm going through it right now with like Jeff Buckley Grace. Like, I'm going through the same thing that you're going through on Discogs. Like, I know which version to get. I'm buying it from people. They're sending me the wrong thing, the wrong dead wax, the wrong hype sticker. Yeah. I'm sending it back.
Yep.
It's like, I think the labels could be a little bit more transparent about the sources that they're getting from. You know, we have to rely on each other to kind of figure this stuff out. You can't see who cut the record unless you open it. There's very few people who put a sparse code on now. Mobile Fidelity does it now out of like reputational
because they protection. Went through hell and back.
Because they lied.
Right.
Neil Young has been doing it forever on the back of every CD and the back of every album. This is where it comes from, guys. This is who cut it. This is where it comes from.
Frank Zappa's
I,
CD is the same thing.
I praise Zappa for that, and I think there's a relationship there with Bellman too that probably overlaps that affords that to happen. Chris Bellman. I think Bellman cuts the Zappa stuff. I could be wrong.
I'm not sure,
or at least some of it. And I guess my point is like, this goes back to our original thing, like, who's the target market? Like, we're not the target market. So, like, the average 20-year-old does not care where if it was a cut from a digital file or not. They don't
yeah,
care.
but not just the digital file. I'm talking about like just poor pressings.
Yeah, but I guess I'm bringing this up because most of those poor pressings are cut from poor sources, right? And the other thing is the record plant. Like, you need those details in the front, because if you look at like a really bad pressing, or you look at a series of bad pressings, you're probably going to see a lot of similarities of where they were cut, where they were pressed, what label put them out.
Mhm.
And I think that's the transparency you need. Sometimes
Yeah.
you don't know anything about the record till you buy it, especially on these mass reissue titles, unless it's like a direct email from one of these boutique labels that cater to us that says, this is where it's from, this is who did it, this is the story behind it. You just don't know.
The savvy
Like,
collector is gonna say, if they're not coming at you 50 different ways about this is a triple A pressing, then it's not.
yeah. Well,
It's like
but
buying
that's the thing.
gluten-free now. Everything that is gluten-free has a freaking label on it. It's like same thing with like on analog pressings.
But this is where I get confused about this, because I think like I brought up the Stone Temple Pilots thing. I think the Van Halen stuff was cut all analog at one point from Rhino, and it wasn't on the hype sticker. Like, people had a kind of, you have to, like, it's not transparent enough to figure this out. I think a lot of those Rhino
And there's like
reissues
no
were
one
like,
regulating it, right? It's not like there's some like overlying body saying like you must have this, it's like so people can do whatever the hell they want when they're pressing these records.
yeah, and I think, I again, we're the 1% that cares about that. And I think that's, I guess, like, it's when I think about quality, like, look, it's a physical medium. Like, you could have the best, most meticulous limited pressing and it could still have an issue. It just is going to happen. But I think transparency on the sources and how they went through the process would be beneficial. And maybe that's how you draw younger people in a little bit more into like a longer hobby where they care about the quality as well. Because if most people buying it don't care about the quality, then there's no reason to address it. And I don't blame them for that. People put poison in Coca-Cola and people still buy it. So why the hell are they going to change it? It is
Yeah.
what it is.
No, I like what you said there. That's actually a good way to look at it. Is just be more transparent. If we're talking about sound quality in these records varying so dramatically, just say how is this thing, pressed? Like what's the source? What was the process you were going through to make this? Is it digital? Just say it. You cut this from a CD, just say it. That to me it's I don't even want to say it's dishonest, but that's where it becomes like a cash grab, right? You're trying to put out something that's subpar and sell it to people, But to your point, like maybe people don't care. However, this is the only argument I would say about that is early on when I was doing YouTube and stuff, I would get a lot of people that would come in and say, you know what? I tried vinyl. I came to it. I bought a turntable. I went and got some records. They sounded like crap. And then I ditched it. So now I'm back to streaming or whatever. So I think it does matter because especially for young people, like you said, just getting into it, their ear's going to tell them if this doesn't sound as good as a damn Spotify stream, that's a problem. You know what I mean? Because then people are like, what's the big deal with vinyl? Why am I going to care? It sounds like crap. Everyone's telling me it's supposed to sound warm, or whatever. And it's like, that's not what I heard. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yesterday, my brother-in-law stopped by and we did an A/B between my streamer and like some records that I had, right? And we were flipping back and forth. Like, you could clearly tell the difference. But I came to the conclusion that I'm like, man, some of these, it's like I can tell the difference, but if I didn't have the comparison standpoint, I wouldn't be disappointed on either side of the coin.
Yeah.
On if I had records and I didn't have digital or vice versa, I was like, wow, so it's like there's a point of diminishing returns on like how far you want to go, and I think equipment has a lot to do with it. That person could have said they bought 12 records and a Crosley. Well, it's never going to sound great. It's going to be a novelty thing.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
And look, there's stuff. Look, I have stuff I know is cut from digital that I enjoy and I love, and
Well, and that was my point before. It's not always about it just being digital. I mean, poor pressing, it's not like they're one to one. You can't just say every digital pressing is bad and every analog pressing is good.
the Daft Punk random access memories. Like, if I want to show people, like they're like, oh, play something that's going to sound nice. That's like one of the first albums I'll go to. It's digital album. Like, there's no secret
Well, that's
behind
the other
that.
thing too. Yeah, exactly.
So,
Uh,
yeah,
it's
there's a lot to unpack. I think where I get frustrated with this whole thing is it coming from a lot of different points. Like, put some effort into it for us in this niche market.
You're saying as
Because
a consumer?
yeah, as a vinyl community, because the vinyl community isn't the community of people buying vinyl. The vinyl community is the community of people who are obsessive and on a journey that's gone way beyond buying records to listen to music. It's just the facts. Like, doesn't make us bad, doesn't make us anything negative. It just is, we are what we
Yeah,
are.
we are everywhere. We are in the comic book world, we are in the sports card world, we are in the doll collecting, it's like
Wine,
there are
food.
collector mentality,
Yeah.
and that's just what it is.
But yeah, and then I think just the quality and the transparency would make a big difference to everybody.
Yeah, no, I love that. Okay, Vinyl Dreamscape. Hello, gentlemen. Reissues. I generally go for an original. I don't mind paying a little more, but I settle for a reissue if the cost becomes prohibitive, or I'll go without. So a cost thing there. Perfect prescription for albums that I am passionate about, and OG and the latest and greatest, but for albums in broader pantheon, and reissue is fine. It's weird because I don't even know. It'd be difficult for me to even tell you why I have to have an original versus a reissue in every situation. It is an artist by artist, a record by record thing. There are certain ones I don't care that I have a reissue. I'm happy to have a reissue. And there's just others where I'm not going to have a reissue. I'm just going to have the OG. I could sit here and try to probe why, but then every time I do, there's always a loophole. If I said, well, it's just the stuff I grew up with, or the stuff I love the most, or if it's just the stuff that's more affordable or whatever. But then I always find a little loophole where it's like, I need the original of that, or I'm totally fine with a reissue. Bottle Piper, what's up, Bottle Piper? Evening, I missed all the conversation, but I focus on OGs. But the Sundays reissues of classic psych and garage bands have been amazing, and I hate people describing reissues as amazing. But I love that you've been sharing that stuff on your channel too, or on Instagram, man. It's been great to see some of that stuff, and I'm happy that there are good reissues of them, because I know the OGs of that stuff is pricey. For someone like me, it's like, I'm not going to spend $200-$400 on a record unless it's in fact, I'm just not. I can't even think of a case where I would. So I love that there's reissues of the stuff. And if it sounds presentable, I'm good.
Sundays has really stepped their game up. So I agree with Vinyl Piper, and their subsidiary label, Modern Harmonic's been doing Sun Ra stuff that's been getting praised too.
Yeah.
But for a while,
Sundays,
for a while, Sundays, this is like post CD bubble pre-resurgence. So think about it like 2000s maybe. Sundays was doing some shitty stuff, but they were the only ones doing it. So
yeah.
But they've really stepped their game up. I got some cool stuff from them recently.
Vinyl Dreamscape. I don't mind paying a little more for something I want, but once the price hits that 4-figure area, well, then Mr. Bongo is just fine. Music in the house. As a collector, having an original is something you might get because you know there would never be another. As a listener, it doesn't matter. Both can be true for a music love. And Jill says, I wish they'd reissue all the Beatles on colored vinyl. They haven't done that yet, Chris. Where's the Beatles colored wax?
I think just on the greatest hits.
On the greatest hits, yeah. Well, those originally were, you're talking about like the red and the blue. They originally were on colored wax.
Oh,
so
yeah.
They'll reissue them in the same way.
I don't really do greatest hits. I don't do greatest hits.
So a lot of things that they're doing, in fact, that's a great kind of a segue. We don't have to get too deep into this, but maybe just one word on this, but record store day, and other pressings specifically cater to like younger people, I think, right? Colored wax is one thing, multiple collectible pressings. I think it's wise. I think if the vinyl community, or if I say community, the economy, the vinyl, business at large just tries to cater to older people. It's, or just people that are audiophile, or just people that just want black wax. They would not sell near as much records as they're selling now. In fact, a lot of those kids that are going in that you're seeing in these record stores, Chris, might be the ones that are chasing some of that stuff, that are looking for, love that colored wax and love those, spiral and whatever, all the different stuff, sunburst and all these things. And how many of those people don't own a turntable? Because I still think it's funny that there's a narrative out there that 50% of people buying vinyl only 50% own a turntable, which, look, the reason we get this stuff and we get to have nice things are because everyone is involved in buying. So I don't have any problem with it. If you want to keep doing, I think people want the options. Some people are like, well, don't just do colored wax, put out a black variation for us. Any thoughts on that? That's just kind of just jumping on Jill's corner comment.
The first records I ever bought in my life when I was a kid, I didn't have a turntable.
Yeah.
So I get it. I just wanted to have records. I thought they were cool. I was like, oh, one day I'll get a turntable if I buy enough records. And then I had a bunch that I got rid of. Look, there's a collectibility to everything. And if that's what you're into, like, that's cool. I don't know. I don't think it's a bad thing, to your point. If that's the novelty that gets somebody to open the gateway into this, that's fine.
Yeah.
I had a big gripe with Taylor Swift because my daughter's a massive Taylor Swift fan. I've told the story a lot. I took her when Tortured Poets came out. I took her to the record store. She got off the bus. We got right in the car because she never went to a store and bought an album on the day it came out. She has no idea what that's like. And like, we walk in and there's 4 different variations of the record, and every variation has one different track. If I was buying,
so when is it a cash grab, Chris? When is it a cash grab?
Well, I was going to retract my statement about cash grab, but like, if Taylor Swift was my favorite artist, I would have bought all 4.
Absolutely.
But there's no way I'm going to tell her that she can buy all 4 at 9 or 10 years old. Like, you can pick one. Like, take a chance, But there's collectibility in that, and I think that's very artist dependent. Where I don't know if anybody else besides Taylor Swift could do that. Maybe the Beatles could do that. I don't know. There's probably a few other artists that could pull that off consistently.
Let me ask you this. Go ahead. Finish your sentence, and then I got a question.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, because I didn't want to forget. I'm sorry. But what about the last Cure album that just came out? We know it has different mastering, and they came out with like 3, I don't know what it, I didn't buy it. I don't like the record, even though I'm a massive Cure fan. Let's just get that out there. But for people that are into that, people we know out there buying each of the variations because they're either curious or this sounds a little different. I mean, what's up with that?
I don't know if that was deliberate, but at the same time, like, I don't think it's that out of the ordinary, because if you pay close attention to like any global release, people will tell you even on a new reissue, like on a new issue, like Lana Del Rey's a good example. If you really dig into some of her recent albums, they'll tell you like, oh, the EU pressing is better than this pressing.
Well, so yeah, like, you can see by region.
Yeah, but like, I would assume those are cut by different people too. I would have to think that. It was just weird the way that was like so stealth by Cure.
Yeah, Orange just said Lana Del Rey, exactly what you're saying, doing it. She's the one where Taylor came from. Okay.
It's so funny because I think that Taylor Swift's last couple of records are just a Lana Del Rey ripoff, and I think it's a slap in the face to Lana's artistry. I think she's fantastic, but that's a whole nother discussion. Yeah, I don't know. It's like that was such, but see, like, this is where I get conflicted, because like the fact that like Jason brought that up and like it became like a buzz in the VC, like that was kind of fun. it was kind of fun to like I didn't get caught up in it, like buying it and chasing the pressing, but it was kind of fun to hear everybody talk about it and kind of investigate and figure it out. And I think that's like it's the same core value as the collector who's a kid who wants the novelty. Like that core value just gets accelerated to like the fact that there was two different mastering engineers. And one was
Well,
at
if you're
45
an
and one was at,
artist and you're getting
you know,
screwed on streams, and you're now that vinyl is resurging or has been over the we'll see, we may be on the back end of that bubble now, but and you could start doing that and start putting out variations on your records and start selling not just one but two, three, four, five versions to people, and maybe your cut is way larger than it would be on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever. Hell yeah, you're going to do that, right? Hell yeah, from an artist perspective, you're definitely going to do that. Let's put out the swirl. What? Oh, you want to do a pink and a blue and a green? Hell yeah, let's do it. You know, and they start getting people excited about. I mean, they do it in every other whatever you want to say. Now I can't think of the word, but they, they do it in sports cars. They do it in comics. Also, very cover variations. Cards, the same thing. Now just do it on vinyl. It's smart.
It's the only thing that's kept the sport card hobby alive is the fact that you have, 5 or 6 different parallels of somebody's rookie card. It's crazy. Serial numbered nonetheless. And then there's like the other side of this too, is that there's been some legacy, I call them legacy bands because like they're still relevant, but they don't release new music, like Citizen Cope. Some of you guys might know Citizen Cope. Like he's financed his own pressings. They're super limited and they're super expensive, but like I think people ponied up because number one, they're impossible to get, and number two, like it's his project, it's not the label. I think, don't quote me on this, I think Toad the Wet Sprocket put out limited pressings of their catalog that they financed to put out because that's where the money is. So it's like I don't think they're charging that much because they're making it a cash grab. I think that they see that they need to have it available and they can't afford to go through the major labels to do it, or there's not enough of a market, so they take it into their own hands. It's almost like this indie artist approach to like well-established acts that are kind of on the way down of their trajectory. So like, yeah, to your point, if I don't begrudge Taylor Swift. I mean, she's not I'm not going to talk about her music. She's a great content creator. She creates content. You can see it in her discography. She's gone with what's ever trendy, and she's made a record on what's whatever trendy. And I don't.
She's not making music for 40-year-old dudes.
Yeah, and with that, she's allowed to create product. She's allowed to create variations and colored and limited and record store day issues and Target issues, and she's it's like that's the anchor. She's got that on lock. So look, it's just like the Beatles too. Like, come on, nobody's listening to
Kiss.
No, Kiss is the original is, but like the Beatles, no one's listening to those 3-inch singles and being like, "Oh, I really enjoy this." Get a grip. I don't care how much of a music lover you are. You're buying it for the novelty, and you're only buying it because it's the Beatles. Because if Yes put out a 3-inch singles box set, you'd probably sell 75 of them. Actually, you could probably only make 75 of them because that's all that's all the fanatics you have. So it's like I don't begrudge people for making a living. And to your point, it like facilitates the economy. If that's what gets somebody in and keeps them interested, then there is benefit to it. It's not really quantifiable.
Well, it's been my only argument for like grading and encapsulating is that with comic books, huge resurgence. In sports cards, same thing. I know they've tried to do it in other categories like toys and different things, and I just don't know if it's going to work out. And I think it really depends. There has to be some kind of foundation first. That's where I'm not sure vinyl's actually going to take off because I don't know if there's enough to support enough grading and have there be enough people that care and all of that stuff. But with comics and with sports cards, like a whole new economy came out of it. It's helped to people have made full businesses out of it. Young people are out there. They don't have to have a real job because they can go flip cards now. Dude, yes, if I was 12, 15, 19 years old and I was, into cards and stuff like that, damn right, I would love if there was a way for me to support myself with it. And if it was because they were graded or whatever, like, I
But
don't begrudge grading for that reason. I just don't know if there's enough foundation under vinyl to support it.
well,
Um,
here's oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, you get go ahead. I'm sorry.
So here's the thing that like really concerns me is when you look at cards, comics, and sneakers, they all have this failed trajectory, in my opinion.
Yeah, by the way,
Baseball
shout out
card,
Orange Margin bringing up sneakerheads.
yeah, baseball cards, any sports cards, comics, and sneakers only became collectible in hindsight through the scarcity and the condition of the retro product. So, for example, everybody's dad or uncle or whoever probably had a Mickey Mantle rookie card in their bike wheel at some point and didn't know it was going to be worth a ton of money.
Right.
No, very few people didn't wear their first Jordan ones. Very few people didn't like put their first Spider-Man on the shelf and never touch it. So when those became collectible for substantial and significant and obvious reasons, what happened though with all of those industries is that all of those industry had a bubble that burst, and everybody was assuming because they're popular now that they're going to become collectible one day, but there's a saturation in the market. So how do they combat that? Well, now, just
Limited
go,
editions.
yeah, just go to a Foot Locker on a Saturday morning when there's a Jordan release and they have to do a raffle because it's limited. They make the scarcity of it the collectible. If you want a Shohei Ohtani rookie card, you could have one, but you better have the right one and the right variation or the right limited one for it to be worth money. Otherwise, you just have a Shohei Ohtani rookie card on cardboard. Same thing with comics. And I don't think records, I think records are collectible, but I don't think modern records are collector's items. And the way that they make them collector's items to sustain their value long term is to do these variants or limited pressings or serial numbered pressings, whatever it is. And I think there's something very scary and artificial about that. And I think that could be the damnation of the hobby, where that's
Yeah.
where the bubble bursts.
Yeah.
And you saw it inadvertently during the pandemic where things weren't getting pressed and things were selling out fast and more people are into it. Those weren't expensive because they were collector's items. They were expensive because nobody could get their hands on them. And no one realized, or you should have realized, that they're going to press them again. They just can't right now. There's a big difference there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's like I'm just getting eerie memories of baseball cards in 1994 sometimes, and that scares
No,
me.
I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Toll Freak, who said reissues suck?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there something to when it goes reissues versus originals? Is there something about charm? And I know
Yeah.
I'm using that as a very broad term. There's something charming. I don't know a better word for it to owning an original Blue Note, from 1959, whatever, or whatever, right? There's something charming about owning an original, and there's a little bit of, you know, foxing on the cover. It's a little yellowed. It's, you pull it out. It's the thing from 40 years ago as opposed to the thing from 4 weeks ago. How much does that play into reissues versus OG or OGs?
All right, so we're not talking about sound at all. I think it plays a lot into it. Like
Yeah.
if sound isn't a factor, like let's just throw that aside. I think there is people who like retro stuff, and that's okay, and they like that charm of it. I'm fighting the urge because I think Vinyl Dreamscape brings up a really good comment. Can I comment on that real quick?
Yeah,
See his
absolutely.
last one. So Vinyl Dreamscape says, "I'm not sure why I should care if people stop buying vinyl. People stop buying records in the 80s and
Yeah, it's great.
90s,
I was going to comment on
whatever."
that too.
So, but here's the thing. I agree with you, Vinyl Dreamscape, because I would love for a crash to happen so I could go out and get things inexpensively. But then when it comes back, um, the new products come back at a more expensive clip. So if I'm going back to baseball cards with this. Like, you can't go into a store and buy a pack of baseball cards anymore for Like kids can't do that. There's one brand that kids can buy. Everything else is so boutique. Everything else is really expensive. If you pay attention to the card market, and I just pay attention from a distance because I used to be interested in it. Like you could buy a pack of tops for $2.99 at CVS, and then the next jump is a $20 pack that has 2 cards in it. So like when that crash happens and the market has to reinvent itself, I feel like then the items become more and more boutique, and it's a physical item, so there's limitations. Like once it's all swallowed up and everybody no one has access to it, then that's what makes things die. I don't know if I'm making sense, but
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah, I don't think it's great for the economy to just have a crash. And Rojas makes this. I don't know if he's joking or what, but it's like, yeah,
I
it's like
I
just
believe
let
it.
it
I want the
crash, and
crash.
I'll buy all the records and stuff like that. Like, I get it, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, toll free. If I said it earlier, it was probably just to get a conversation going. It was more of a question than like a comment. It wasn't me saying that it sucks. It was me.
I
I don't know.
I want
Probably maybe it's out of context a little bit.
I would love a crash.
Yeah.
I'd love to go into a store and get a Dark Side of the Moon OG for like what it should be worth, not what people have to pay for it now. I just know that like the long term effects of that are going to be pretty negative, as far as like getting new music out, reissues out, stuff like that. So it's like it's a double edged sword. Like I don't disagree with what Vinyl Dreamscape's saying at all, but I see the downside of it because I'm kind of torn on it. It's kind of like the
Yeah, I'm
market.
torn
Like
too.
if you
I'm trying to play
if
devil's advocate a little bit, but yeah, I mean,
if you're a trader, right? I'm speaking very novice here. I'm not in the market aggressively. If you're a trader, some traders make their living off the bottom. Like that's their whole strategy. So now I'm not saying you're making a living off records, but like if you want to acquire more records, you want the fallout to happen a bit.
yeah. So yeah, limited editions. You're right. I think, all the stuff that they're doing, it's easier for us to get cynical about like Taylor Swift and the 20 pressings of this and colored vinyl and this, that. But I mean, in a way, that is kind of the new age that we're in, because you made the point with like, and I agree, like with sports cards, comic books, same thing. It's the alternate cover. Comics, man, dude, there's like 20 different alternate covers and all this stuff. It's like, then there's this one doesn't, I forget what they call it, the nude cover or whatever. This one doesn't have any text on it. And this one's this one's in black and white. There's no color on it. And people collect them. And it's fun, right? For people that like that stuff. If you're into Spider-Man, you're going to want all that stuff. When I was a kid, I would have. Now I'm older. Yes, I have room to be cynical about it, but I try not to be, because I get it. Like we were there back in the day too, and it is fun, and it does help the economy keep going. But to the point you just made is, your OG Dark Side of the Moon is not going to be sub $100 anytime soon, as long as they're doing that. So,
well, I think you're bringing up a good point too. They're manufacturing collectability now rather than being organic. Like when you were a kid and you knew the first. I don't know anything about comics. I'm just really into records. If you had the first edition Spider-Man or the repress of the original Spider-Man, like that was something you could tell and know the difference. But now, to your point, like they're producing 4 different variations to create collectability on it. That's a problem.
Yeah.
And then to support it even further, the grading and slabbing is to say, I have a new one and this is the best of the new one. You get what I'm saying?
So
Like
that kind of segues us into the next piece of this, I think, which is oversaturation, right? Final Dreamscape, I don't doubt the market would change, but I can't worry about that. I don't collect. Yeah, I mean, look, it's why I'm on the fence about it. I think the problem though is that people make their living selling records. That's the part that's kind of messed up to me, is like, if we is that when a market crashes, then all those people go away. I get it. Like we will all get to have the collections that we've dreamed of and all that stuff for reasonable prices or cheap. I just think it's a two-edged sword. I think someone always loses. So I understand what you're saying. I totally get it. Yeah, of course. As a collector, I would love for that to happen. There are side effects to it, I think, is the only point we're making on that. What's up, Nick? Toll Freak, I just received a Tower OG LP off of eBay, rated excellent, BG plus by the seller. There are feelable scuffs on both sides of the record. Now that sucks. You're not going to get that with a new reissue. True. Yeah, we had a whole show on grading. Although,
hold on,
Chris, hey, that's
hold on.
You're talking to the wrong guy, Toll. We got the man right there. You want to touch on that? Give us the quick version. Give us the Cliff's notes on that, Chris.
You can definitely get defective reissues, and I do every week.
No one returns more new records than Groove Seeker.
No,
and it's not scratches, to your point, Toll, but like warps. What, Chris? Tell us what the issues are.
Warps, no fill, visible no fill. Definitely scratches. I don't return for like I don't return for like, or I don't bitch and complain about sleeves, but there's a ton of.
He claims he's not that picky, guys. Come on,
I'm not that picky. But you can definitely get, you definitely get issues with quality control issues with reissues for sure.
So there is a thing about charm when we start saying like OGs over reissues. I think there's a charm. We got into like the collectible aspect. There's charm in that too. If you're that kind of person where you want to have all the different variations and stuff. So there can be charm both directions on that. Jazzy says, do you guys think reissues make OGs more or less valuable? That is a good question. In fact, I asked Soul Disco about that, Nadine, and it depends. She says that it doesn't have that much of an impact. In a lot of ways, it's a different collector. And so I think that's there's almost a wall separating those things. If certain OGs are just always going to maintain their value, because it depends on the OG, I guess, because at some point it's not about the music, it's about the thing, right? It's like they could reprint Mickey Mantle's until the end of the time. It's end of time. It's never going to impact what an original Mickey Mantle baseball card is going to be worth, right, Chris?
Mm-mm.
And so some records are the same way. Not all, but some. You have any comment on that, Chris? Because I mean, maybe the bigger point is like, yeah, you can see that if it floods, if there's a record that I don't know, I haven't really seen it happen though, man. I haven't really seen it happen. Jill says she bought a warp record at Target. I think generally more valuable by raising awareness of an home. Yeah. Jill, by the way, she's having a hard time getting into the Grateful Dead, everyone. Recommend a record for her. Decoy cards, manufacturer parallels, or scarcity is def an issue in trading cards. I love having decoy here. Offers such a great perspective. It still sells. The idea is similar to vinyl variations, but the key difference between vinyl and cards is vinyl can be played. Yeah, that is a major difference there.
Andy G wants to know what no fill is. So you can see no fill a lot of times, but essentially it's like just a defect in the pressing where the groove doesn't complete, or the another way to describe it is
it's like it could be an air pocket or something in the wax or something,
or something happens with the stamper where like you get to that section and it's just like the music's kind of there, but there's like audible issues, and it's almost like sometimes like a white line in the groove, or sometimes it looks like an air pocket, or sometimes it looks like a blob, and most of the time you can just see it. It's tougher to see on colored wax sometimes, I think, probably, but it's an audible thing you're gonna hear. Like I don't know how else to do. You like when you see it or hear it, you know you have it. That's what it comes down to.
Decoy cards. So for grading, would they grade the vinyl and the jacket, the sleeve, because it's a weird one? Yeah, so they'll grade everything. They'll even grade the music. They'll play it and they'll grade the music, which is a separate service. But then if it's a sealed record, then they're gonna be grading the jacket and the shrink wrap. If it's an open record, then they're gonna grade everything that they can see, they can touch. So they're gonna grade that record too. They're gonna visually grade it. And then there's generally at least I've graded one record because I was curious. It's not even my record. I still have it. I should just show it. And you can kind of see how the grade is decoy. So you can see right there, this one got a 7.0 VG plus, they're calling it. cover got a 6.4, spine got a 8.5, seal got a 7.0. So this is sealed, so they couldn't grade the record itself. But if it is open, they will grade the record too.
Vinyl Dreamscape makes a comment that I've been saying, and I think Spins and I have talked about this offline. Oddly, I think the reissue value, I think the reissue makes the value of the original increase. I wholeheartedly agree with that in most cases, which is counterintuitive, but the reissue draws the attention of more music fans.
Yes, that is 100%. A great way to. Yes, that is. I agree.
100%.
I agree.
That might be the comment of the night.
People didn't know about it before that. A perfect example of that is I can show a record that's a perfect example.
Please, I know where you're going with this.
You know where I'm going.
Yeah.
Where are you? Where are you?
Especially if the reissue sucks.
Wait, where is it?
Check under B in your R&B section.
Oh man, it must be out of.
Yeah, I think that that's been the case, is that the reissues have driven up the OG costs, and I think a lot of that's because people now have the reissue and they want the OG to compare, or they want both.
All right,
that's sometimes great. Sometimes it drives it down a little bit.
Well, so the one I was going to say is Ramp, Roy Ayers' musical production. It's been sampled. The OG, and this happens sometimes overnight, dude. I wanted that record. Here's the story. I wanted that record. I was going on vacation. I didn't want to buy it because I knew it was going to arrive and it was going to sit on my porch or in a mailbox or whatever. It was like $90 or $100 for VG Plus, an OG. So I didn't get it. Came back from vacation, looked again. Someone bought it. Okay, that's fine. I'll go look. $200 to $300 now. And the only reason I knew about it was because somebody posted it on Instagram. So now I'm like looking at reissues. I end up getting the reissue. I don't know if the reissue made it go up in that situation, but definitely bringing attention to it did. Can reissues bring attention to it? Yes. So yeah, I agree. So anyway, I was going to try to do a visual aid, but I can't. I don't know what happened to it. I must have miscatalogued it or something. Okay, Jazzy Jeff. American Beauty is easily the best place to start for Grateful Dead journey, at least Studio Europe 72. Yeah, so we gave all kinds of recommendations. Jill just wasn't feeling it. Jill, I'm just teasing too. You don't have to like the Grateful Dead. It's a joke because some of us love the Grateful Dead, and so we love to share that. But we actually, Chris made a
Jill,
great.
Jill doesn't have to like the Grateful Dead, but if she doesn't, she can't come back. I'm just kidding.
Well, he's only saying that unless you like fish. If you like fish, then he's okay with you.
Oh, yeah. Then you can do whatever you want.
Buying a new issue off Amazon or local brick and mortar can easily be returned and exchanged, in my experience. True. Chris gets a warped record. Here's a perfect example. Chris gets his warped records because he buys them direct. He turns around and he says, hey, this is warped. Send me another one. And they do. I got a warped record off of Discogs, and, I'm kind of stuck with it because it was sealed. That's one thing I'll say, man. Be very careful buying sealed records from that aren't new, that are like, from a, off of Discogs or eBay or something like that. And they're not new pressings that you can easily return, because if they are warped or damaged or something like that, you're kind of stuck with it. So,
yeah.
I'm just teasing Jill, honestly. Decoy. Okay, so that's at least a step from graded VHS or video games. Yeah. Slabbing is annoying. I've spent $400 on an OG of glass bead games so I could listen to it. Absolutely. Yeah, this one wouldn't even be sealed if it wasn't, or wouldn't be graded if it wasn't sealed. And it's a rare record, and stuff. So it's not even mine, but it was never going to get opened or anything from them. So Strata East reissue of glass bead games will make the OG more valuable. Yeah. I love jazz. I didn't know anything about the Strata East label, if I'm being 100% honest. So now that I know that's out there, I think there's a lot of people like me that are going to be like, oh, okay, let me track down these reissues. I just think it is going to drive them up. To add to Vinyl Dreamscape's great point is that limited reissues can drive demand up for both, because limited reissues are scarcer, which then push people to find original different present. Yeah, Decoy, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a I don't know what I forget what they call this, but you sell 1,000 reissues, and 50 of those people want to go find an OG, or even 20 of those people. That's a lot.
Yep.
That's a hell of a lot.
When there's like
You
3
know?
on Discogs.
Right. Or there's 50 on Discogs, but all of them are G plus except for 3 of them.
I guess
Like,
the best thing you can do in that situation is, pay very close attention to records that are coming out and jump on it immediately before the seller has a chance to get to it, because like I said, we saw Ramp go from like $100 BG plus to like $300 BG plus literally overnight. So people are paying attention for sure. Um, so oversaturation, you want to, I guess that's kind of what we're getting into, and driving up prices on the OGs. Um, I mean, poor sound quality. So uh, we touched on this a little bit. Chris has had a lot of experience. You buy a lot of new records. I'm buying mostly used records. I wonder if a lot of used stuff has already been curated out, like anything that was warped or damaged or whatever, has it already been returned and dumped in the garbage or whatever? Is that why it seems like there's more problem with quality control now, or is there just more problem with quality control now because of an upended supply and demand problem, right? Where there's been a lot of demand and not so much supply, and there wasn't the infrastructure to support all of that, and people are just there's just not the QC that there should be on these records.
I think it's all Adele's fault. I think when she took over like 9 pressing plants around the world, I feel like that's when everything started to go haywire. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think that they're trying to keep up with demand and press these things as quickly as possible, and it's just happening. And I've complained about it every week, and I'm really trying to stop, but Spence keeps on bringing it back up. It's just in the past year and a half.
I just love to see you squirm.
Just in the past year and a half that these issues have happened. I don't know what it is. I
Okay,
would assume it's just because they're cranking this stuff out.
so just in the last year and a half. So it's not even this isn't even just a pandemic thing. This is a new development.
No, because I've been buying reissues since 2016, and I had an issue once in a while, like, but not chronically like I have now. And I've talked about how jaded I am now. I'm super on principle about it. Like anything I think is wrong, I'm like, I'm just gonna email them and get a new one until they tell me I can't anymore. But
And these
yeah.
are higher end. This is limited edition oftentimes, or like this isn't some of these have been numbered, right?
Yeah, this is Tone
This isn't
Poet
mass
Classic.
produced stuff
This
necessarily.
yeah, this is Tone Poet Classic Verve. Like a couple of like I got the Wilco box set, went through hell with that. And it's like a limited, not like a limited edition, but they're not making 20,000 of these things.
Right.
Um I have very few issues with, I don't buy as much Mobile Fidelity as I used to. I just haven't really liked the titles. I very rarely have an issue with them. Very rarely have an issue with Analog Productions, and I get a lot of records from them.
UHQR.
UHQR, Acoustic Sound Series, the AP75, just their standard stuff. Um,
But so far,
I
no
d
real problems with that stuff.
No, the only thing, which I think is like a known thing, there was a run on the Acoustic Sound Series with some of the Verve titles, like on the Bill Evans stuff was a little like everybody complained about that. And there was one other that like seemed to be like a known issue. Um, and I don't, but like, yeah, it's I kind of, you have this philosophy too. I think like, oh, well, I'm paying X for a record. I know what I'm getting. Like if I'm gonna buy, I don't know, some new release from some popular artist that's gonna be mass produced. Like, let's say, I can't even think of like a popular band I listen to.
Rumors. You spend
Let's
20
say I
bucks
was
on the Rumors, you're okay if it has a little warp, if it doesn't affect quality. You go buy a UHQR of a Bob Dylan or Bob Marley record, not Bob Dylan, but a Bob Marley record, for example. You
better be
you want it
perfect.
to be right. Yeah,
I
you
want to be
want
able to eat my
it's
dinner off of it if I
$150
don't.
on it.
Yeah, like if like I would kind of have expectations. Like I'm not a U2 fan, but if U2 puts out a new album tomorrow and like they're gonna make, 50,000 copies of it and I'm gonna buy one, I'm just gonna assume I'm gonna have an issue with it.
I want to get to Jill, but Nick says, I ask people selling sealed records to open them first, worth a shot, and works for me. I might start doing that. I haven't
I
bought a
do it
lot of
too.
sealed records like that, so this has been a kind of an eye-opening experience for me. Uh, so
So somebody had a sealed maggot brain at this store a few years ago that I used to go to. They closed, and
that's
I
tough.
said I'll give you $100 just to open it right now.
Really? Did they?
Yeah, no, wouldn't do it.
Yeah,
I
it's a
said I
tough
said
one, dude.
I said I'm gonna give you 100 to open it, and if it's good, I'm gonna buy it. So you're gonna make 100. But if I open it and I don't
But
want it,
now they're selling an open record, and what if it's
you're still
warped?
yeah, you're still gonna be able to sell it. And if it's warped, you could probably try to fix it.
And if
Otherwise,
it's
someone's gonna
warped
buy it.
and you're not opening it because you think it might warp, then that's dishonest record seller.
Yeah, but the guy
Um,
wouldn't budge. I was like, "Damn."
wow. Yeah, I don't know if I would either, man. Um, Toll Freak says Columbia reissues from the 70s, Miles Davis reissues, Bob Dylan reissues, for example, sound fantastic. Chris can speak to that. I have reissues
Uh,
of Miles stuff, which sounds great. Fortunately, Miles stuff has been reissued a million times too. I mean, so a lot of what I have is going to have like the prestige stuff I'm going to have on 80s OJCs, which were really nice. And they're all
yeah.
analog, the early ones. And so they sound great. I have is it Music on Vinyl that did uh his big record, which I'm faded on your favorite
Kinda
record of
blue.
all time, Kind of Blue. Yeah.
Everybody's done that, but the music on vinyl one's not bad. I
Yeah,
had
that's
it
the one I
eventually.
have. It's good compared to the one I used to have. It sounds fine. So um, but yeah. Then Jill says, "Are reissue a bad investment? OGs are the ones to get if you want to resell." Well, we were actually talking about that before the stream, and it seems like not to get we don't have to get specific or anything, but it does seem like that's a true statement, Jill. At least at this point in time, is a lot of the stuff that was a good investment is starting to come down now in terms of reissue series and stuff like that. I mean, if you want to, you can speak on that, Group Seeker. But then, like, it seems like the OGs are holding value. And that goes back to like OGs are just going to hold their value for the most part. I think, right? It's going to be the last thing to go because it's a different collector.
Yeah, I don't like sell records for profit. Like I've sold a few recently that what did I sell? I sold the Citizen Cope album that when I saw it was going for a Discogs, I'm like, I might as well just take the money. And I sold a Dog Pound dog food RSD reissue for like an obscene amount of money compared to what I paid for it. But I'm not really selling records to make money. I will tell you I'm having a really hard time making space because I'm trying to sell what I don't want, and it's not going well. It's
You're
not.
not going to get
That's
your
what.
money back on all that stuff.
No, and I'm not necessarily looking to. Like, I think, I have a philosophy that's similar to you. Like, I played it and I enjoyed it. So,
Yeah, consider that a rental fee, right?
like a rental fee, yeah. And, so yeah, I don't know this. First of all, I don't think records are an investment period. I think you have to get really lucky of buying somebody's collection or getting a collection of in bulk to really make it an investment. And then how often is that going to happen? I think you can flip records if you're looking at a place where they don't really know what they have, but that's like a short-term investment, and I think investment, I'm thinking like long term. It's just not my bailiwick. I just don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
But
It's a tough question to answer. Otherwise, everybody would be doing it, right? And then you end up in a dead wax era like we did back in the 90s with cards, or the death of Superman. 500 people, or 5 million people go out and buy that record and keep it sealed because they think it's gonna be worth something. Well, the problem is in 30 years there's still 5 million of them. um so yeah, and to Vinyl Piper's point, makes a great point. Common OGs, but yeah, you're exactly right. If it's stuff that's scarce, yeah, there's only going to be so many to go around, right? Always, there will always only be a certain amount or less of those OGs that are more scarce. So yeah, I agree with that, Vinyl Piper. I should have qualified that. By the way, Vinyl Piper, somebody mentioned a Beatle. They bought the Beatles. I forgot who it was. I'm sorry. If you're out there, shout out. Talked about getting that 3-inch record you were talking about from the Beatles and the turntable.
yeah,
Have you seen Vinyl Piper's turntable? He's got
Yes.
the Dark Side of the Moon, right?
Yeah.
That thing
It's pretty
is
sick.
dope, dude. That thing is sick, Piper. That thing is sick.
Vinyl Dreamscapes. You got the deluxe Ghost is Born. Yes, I have all of. This is why I'm so pissed. I have all of the releases. It's one of my favorite bands ever. The content is fantastic, and I saw them a lot in that era. And there's a live show on there. There's a bunch of demos, and even though like the box is 9 LPs, it comes with 4 CDs of additional content. It's the Yankee Hotel Foxtrot one I thought was like one of the best box sets I've ever purchased in my life. And The Ghost is Born isn't as prolific as that content, but it's still worth having. I mean, you could probably stream a lot of it too. I'm not sure if you need to go crazy or just get the CDs, but it's worth having if you love that album and you love the band.
Toll Free, Blue Note Classics, Tone Poet, Reissue sound great. So why spend extra cash? Yeah, I mean, we have friends in the community that have originals. We have those that mix and match. I think it goes back to charm. That's something I brought up earlier. There's something about having it. I have really I don't even have an OG of it. I have the second pressing of Out to Lunch by Eric Dolphy, which is a Blue Note. And I like it. I just think it's cool. It has some writing on the inner sleeve and stuff that somebody did, back in the whenever it was 60s or something. And I also have a Music Matters 45 RPM. So to me, those are two. It's a broad range, but it's my favorite jazz record. It's one of the only records that I have multiple copies of. And there is something cool about it. I'll say that. Now, having said that, I'm not a buyer. I think a lot of this too has to do with what's your financial situation, right? I mean, look, if you have unlimited funds, to you going out and buying all OGs, it's nothing. If you want them, you go buy them. It's like, so it's, but for maybe people that are trying to be economical, I can't afford to go out and buy yes, of course, we're talking about, I'm going to go buy the classic and the Blue Notes all day long because they do sound great and it's what I can afford. Right. So
I had a Cannonball Adderley second pressing of something else, and I sold it. I didn't pay for a Tone Poet for a year and a half.
With Miles Davis and John Coltrane. Yeah, there you go.
I'm cool. And I got the classic one, which I don't know if it sounds better, but it certainly had less noise and pops and clicks, and I don't remember what the original sound like, and I don't care.
Chris, he doesn't care about the quality of the music. Just give him the music, however he can get it. I'm just joking, of course. Dark Side Mini Turntable, that's badass. Yeah, I'm assuming vinyl. Piper's probably, it's not. Those are recent. They came out, right? I doubt that's his go-to, but he's been showing it on social, and it's cool to look at.
I think Project did it, right? I'm not sure.
That sounds right. Yeah, they were cool. I went and looked at them, and I'm like, all right, I'm a little pricier than I thought it's just a novelty. That'd be fun, but I guess they're serious turntables. Tokyo, what's up, Tokyo? Why are people spending $30 on a Crosby, Stills, and Nash album when they could have an OG for $2? Good question. I think
which album?
There are buyers that aren't going to record stores. There are people that just aren't buying used stuff. That's a mentality that we have. But there are people that only buy new stuff. They see, oh, Crosby, Stills, Nash, let me get a new copy. Whether they just don't know how to navigate the used ecosystem, about whether it's a used record store. Some people just don't like going into used record stores. My girlfriend's one of them, It's like, wash your hands when you get it back in the car and that kind of thing, right? They just want something new. Also, maybe it's a sound quality thing, people they don't want to hear all the clicks and the pops and all that stuff that don't bother some of us. They bother others of us. I know I sound like I'm getting over passionate about that, but I'm not really. I just think, there are people that they just buy new stuff. Would you agree with that, Groove Seeker?
Yeah, I think I'm one of them. I
Yeah.
don't know. I got like I have that Atlantic 75 series, the last Crosby, Stills, and Nash one that came out with Dark Star on it and A Song Before I Go. Sounds pretty incredible. I'm sure you can get an OG like way cheaper, but I also don't think so this is another weird thing, is like, I don't know if I'd go out and buy that album unless it came in that series and it was like not forced upon me, but introduced to me that way. I don't know, there's a lot to consider. I had it on CD though as a kid, so I don't know. I don't know why people do it. Maybe people just don't care. Maybe I'm caught up in the reissue machine, I guess, to a certain extent. I don't know.
There's just so many different kinds of buyers, and there's just we are the minority, right? Those of us that know sort of the landscape, all the different options, Amazon, our local record store, Walmart, Target, going to Craft or MoFi or whatever. The average person doesn't have that level of, it's very narrow to them. Is it some people are just looking at Amazon? Oh, look what showed up on Amazon. Crosby, Still, Nash. Cool, let me get that. It's just that kind, in my opinion. I just think it's that kind of thing.
Well, Rojas and I were joking around about that Frank Ocean Blonde record. That has a lot of value to it. I think they finally reissued it, but we're like, well, how many 25-year-olds right now got that in high school or college and never opened it? It's just sitting sealed in their bedroom and they don't even realize what they have. Like, there is
Right.
going to be some of that too.
Yeah, true. What's up, Wyoming Dave? Piper says no record style because they want a super clean copy exactly when they want it instead of waiting. Yeah. Jazzy Jeff, The Ghost is Born Records phenomenal. The 9 LP box set is pressed at Optimal in Germany, according to the Wilco website. Which, did you finally get a decent one, Chris?
I don't know. I got I'm on my third copy. I'm on my third box set and my fourth set of records, and finally they sent me the colored variation, which looked to be flatter out of the box. So I haven't played it yet.
Did they let you keep all the other records, or did you have to destroy them or ship them back?
Yeah, actually, Vinyl Dreamscape. You should hit me up offline. You have my contact info. I might have an extra of those boxes for you. We can talk.
There you go.
Yeah.
Just
don't buy it yet.
20% for brokering through the Spins Vinyl channel.
It's probably gonna be free 99 except for shipping for Vinyl Dreamscape. But hit me up on Instagram. We'll chat.
Vinyl Piper, that dark side is not a mini. Yeah, it's not a mini table, full size project. It's really nice. It looks phenomenal. I guess my first thing was, is it a novelty? But Piper saying it's a series table, so that's really cool. I mean,
oh yeah, no, that's
like a serious table. So
it's a nice table. I don't know what kind of cartridge is on it, but
yeah, the one that's a triangle. And even like the little the colors coming through the prism are like lit up, I think, backlit. I mean, dude, it's cool. At least from what I can tell. I've only seen one in action on Vinyl Piper's Instagram. All right. If you're getting a CSN LP for $2, I'm probably not gonna get a great shape. Says Toll Freak, and yeah, so Vinyl Dreamscape's gonna hit you up. What else, Chris? Any other thoughts on this? I guess we touched on a lot of it.
Yeah, I don't think they suck. I think they're not for everybody, just like OGs aren't for everybody. And I think you just take the journey you want to be on. And I'm envious of the people that do both and have the bandwidth to curate both and have a library of the same record, multiple pressings. It's awesome. I think they could. I think that the record labels could do a better job if they listened to people in this vinyl community on YouTube with the understanding that we could help them for the long term if they listen to some of our gripes. I don't think it's going to happen. And I said this on the last stream too. I think that as much as vinyl records of resurgence, it's still not the top money maker. From my perspective, still not the top money maker for record labels. It's touring, licensing, streaming, and then maybe maybe merchandise and partnerships, and then maybe records. So as much as it's popular, again, I don't think it's on their list of high priorities for the future. So
yeah,
I just don't.
I was gonna say, I like your point too, before you get too far away from that, on also just be more transparent. When you're putting out records, let us know what's the source. People care about that stuff. I think certain of us are getting wise to look, if they're not saying this is a triple A, then assume it's not. But, a huge demographic is gonna be the casual person who's just out buying this stuff, and like I said, I've gotten multiple comments from people saying, "Yeah, look, I tried to get into it, but it just didn't sound good, so I got out." Now to your point, was the person listening on a Crosley? I don't know. But, you know, still, it's like we know that there's poor pressings out there. Um, and but if one of the variables that makes a pressing poor is the chain, then be open and honest about it. Rojas in the house. I can see. I knew as soon as Group Secret chuckled. Breaking news: I'll be leading VMP on their reissues. April Fools! You're early, Rojas. You got 2 weeks. Jazzy Jeff, instead of buying the Rhino Doors box, I completed my OG collection for roughly the same price. I'm okay with VG to VG Plus for stereo pressing, routinely buy G Plus for mono. Yeah, that's a great point, Jazzy. That's the thing. Well, here's a perfect example where I'm feeling you 100% is they did the Grateful Dead box set a couple years ago, whenever that was. And I did a video on in fact, I made a video of it. I'm not saying go back and watch it, but I have all the OGs. And I did a price comparison of each album versus the box set, and that it was about the same, honestly. I don't know if there's any punchline to that, because a lot of people are still going to buy it. A lot of people want them because they're new and fresh and all that stuff. But I'm someone, to your point, if I can go out and get the OGs and, given the OG sound good, yeah, I'm going to go do that. If all things are equal, I'm going to go do that.
That box sounds ridiculous.
Does it? Well, have you done any ABs against the OGs?
ABs on reissues, and you know what? Here's the punchline though. Who the hell listens to Studio Grateful Dead? And come on,
stop it. Well, it wasn't all studio, right? They did half studio and half live.
Yeah, they did Reckoning. They Without a Net. But the American Beauty sounds awesome.
Really?
Working, yeah, it really sounds amazing. But it had okay. So the thing is about that box is that it sounds amazing, but it's audiophile amazing. It's not.
Well, first of all, Mr. Rojas, did they boost the mids? Because that's gonna ruin it, dude.
No, it's it's weird. It's weird because, like, on American Beauty specifically, the audiophile treatment just absolutely crushes the harmonies. It's so good. Like that organic thing that they did on that record and Working Man's Dead, where they were clearly like influenced by
Vinyl Fiber,
CSN and all that stuff.
We're in lockstep.
But like, it's not as like grainy and gritty as like an OG, if that makes sense.
And there's something to that.
Sure.
Now, this isn't saying that reissues suck, but there is something about, like you said, there's that grainy, gritty. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's charm. I don't know if it's warmth. I can't tell you. All I know is when I take my OG, Skull and Roses, and put it down, and I get to hear, it's like, oh, this is the record I remember. Anything different from that is going to take me out of it. I said this before in another thing we did. It's like, if they tried to fix something, it would just ruin it for me. I'm too intimate with that music.
But you're hitting the nail on my head. This is my whole argument. It's what you remember.
Yeah.
So if what you remember is really good, then nothing's going to compare to it.
And that might be part of the, OG versus why I would make a purchase. OG versus an original is that, like, if I have a very specific sound in my head of what that sounded like, I need the OG. If it's something that I've recently discovered, I'm probably not going to care as much. I'm going to be like the Ramp record. Yeah, I wanted an OG, but it's like I grew up with that record. The reissue sounds great. The original might sound better. I'm fine with it. But in terms of, obviously it's a joke. The thumbnail says, "Do reissues suck?" I tried to be clever there. The "do" and the question mark are kind of a little lighter font than the other stuff. No, reissues don't suck. Some do. some OGs suck. You know, it's not a perfect world. We're dealing with an imperfect media, vinyl records. That's the world we're in. Guess what? They're going to get warped. They're going to get scratched. There's going to be pops and ticks. There's going to be so much variation and mixing and master. Hopefully, just in the just say mastering and stuff like that. Reissues. There's issues with the tape, and they try to do a reissue of it, and the tape is in poor condition. Well, do you just reproduce it in poor condition, or do you digitize it so you can fix those things? Some people care, some people don't. It's all over the place. We talked about it today. Some people are fine doing all reissues. Some people want all the OGs. Some people are a mix. I think a lot of us are a mix. Chris and I are very different in the sense that you have a lot of reissues. Consequently, you deal with a lot of the downside of that. That's why I thought this would be a fun discussion. I have a lot of OGs and or earlier issues, and I deal with those issues. But if you want to get a DAC and a streamer like Chris has done, then it will always sound the same.
Yeah.
But outside of that, man, we're dealing with vinyl, right? There's going to be variations.
AA Ryan made a really good comment that I don't want to overlook. The fact that they recently started putting things like who the engineer is on the hype sticker is an example of labels beginning to listen more to the people in the VC. Yes, but they're listening for buying signals. They're not listening for improvements. So I don't disagree with you at all. I think it's right. I think it's a sign, but they're looking to make that. They've identified what they think audiophiles deem important, but they're not taking it one step further with how to do it better. So it's like there's some promise there, but it's going to be limited, I think.
Yeah, good point. Go through some of these other comments real quick.
It's not exactly, yeah.
I was even lucky able to pick up a clean self-titled doors in mono, says Jazzy. Very nice. Wyoming Dave, I came across Grateful Dead albums used. You guys all recommend them, right? Well, not everyone, but yeah, I think the people on this panel do.
What was that? I zoned out. I was reading.
Wyoming Dave says, if I come across Grateful Dead albums used, are they recommended? I'd say pick up any Grateful Dead used, pick it up. I mean,
anything
if you like
go to heaven.
I mean, I don't know. Do you like the Grateful Dead? Don't say go to heaven, dude. That is a good record. My guy hates Brett Midland. I'm sorry. That's a good album. Even if it's go to heaven, Wyoming Dave. Decoy says, in the wise words of Dwight Schrute, nostalgia is truly one of the greatest human weaknesses, second only to the neck. That is hilarious. That's the mic drop right there. I love when we have a good mic drop come out of the chat. That's it right there. AA, yeah, it's not exactly because they want to be nice. Yeah. And it assumes that, just because something was engineered by someone that makes it better than every other thing, right? And we get it in our head and stuff. So, I grew up with CDs and tapes. My dad, hope I didn't miss something. My dad had records. So for me, I connect certain bands or albums to different formats, which makes it fun to collect a lot of formats. That's interesting too. And just quickly, I don't want to bore people, but I started kind of rebuilding my hip hop, my 80s hip hop collection. That's the stuff I grew up with. I loved it as a kid, and I never really had the stuff on vinyl, but now I'm just a vinyl guy. So I'm buying the stuff on vinyl, but in the day I had it on tape. I don't collect tapes. So, but yeah, interesting though. But having said that, my memory of it is from the tape, right? That was the Walkman, the boombox. Rojas, do reissues suck? Do dogs have fleas? I'm hoping one day CDs will make a comeback. We've channeled you a couple different times, Jay, on this stream. We also know that you're looking for a crash. He wants the vinyl crash to come so that he can go back to the dollar bin and get all these great records for $1. Lots of people do, Oh, I thought you were laughing at me, Dave. Thanks. You wanted to clarify. It was Jason R. that said something funny. Rojas says, Terrapin Station is prog dead. Okay. Enough of you already, Jay. Come on now. Well, Chris.
He's got a good point.
I don't even talk. I don't even use the word prog in my presence. Is Zappa prog Why don't you ask Zappa? What would he tell you? Is Devo prog?
No, but Zappa's got prog elements.
We should do a video on it. Did you
Actually,
never saw the MTV interview where they asked him about it?
No, but hold on. It's not up to Frank Zappa to decide if he's prog or not. He lost that once he put his music out in the public. My whole I'm gonna
Can
tie
he
this back
decide
to
on other bands being prog?
Yes.
Well, progressive.
I mean, I don't know if he's prog. I don't even. What is prog anyway?
Thank you. What about butt rock, Chris? You okay with that?
Frank Zappa.
What about yacht rock?
Frank Zappa's yacht rock too.
You're okay saying yacht rock? What do you think? What would your favorite band think of that? All the UHQRs from Steely Dan.
Well, Steely Dan's not yacht rock. Just people who like yacht rock like Steely Dan. There's a big difference.
Is that why he got pissed on that phone call, because he's not yacht rock, or he just didn't like being categorized as yacht rock?
I think he just knows that he's better than all of those other bands in that documentary. So why even associate with them?
Yeah, most bands don't like to be pigeonholed as anything, right? They think of themselves as creators of music. A lot of jazz people, the same thing, right? They don't even want their records labeled as jazz. I get it. I'm just,
I took this history of jazz class in college, and the guy who taught it, I wish I could remember his name, but he was like in the industry as an engineer and some other like studio musician or whatever. He's a kind of a jack of all trades. I think he's got a Grammy. God, I gotta remember his name, but he's like, we're gonna define jazz. And this is a 3-hour once a week class. Like the first class, like the first 2 hours is defining jazz. And his final definition was, it's a body of music and its approach to that music. That's his definition of jazz. I was like,
because the more you talk about it, the more you get away from, being able to define it. Used dead is cheap, says Wild. I don't. Is used dead cheap? Some of it. Vinyl Dreamscape. I'm not a big Grateful Dead fan, but always liked the track Alabama Getaway from Go to Heaven. Thank you, Vinyl Dreamscape. Look, I'm not saying it's my favorite Dead album. I'm saying it's a valid Dead album. No Crash, please, says Jill.
You know what you can do for $9.99, Wyoming Dave, is you can just stream all the Grateful Dead albums and decide what you like.
It's true.
You don't have to worry about getting them on wax, or go on YouTube or just listen to live Grateful Dead videos on YouTube. This is good.
Is Grateful Dead the one band that you could make a strong argument that it should be streamed? Because oftentimes their live stuff, it's great on wax, except that it keeps getting chopped. They play long, extended sets. One song goes into the next, into the next, into the next. Go listen to Live Dead streaming, and then go listen to it on wax. It's a completely different experience. So you can make the argument that their stuff is better streamed.
Yeah. Same with Fish.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, for sure. And collecting Live Dead on vinyl is expensive. I don't care how much money you have or how much space you have. It could be your whole record collection.
Hey, Ryan, is there any band that calls himself yacht rock? Yeah, I don't think so. I have respect for the artist. You can't say you have respect for the artist, Chris, and go out and start slinging the word yacht rock around. I mean, come on.
Wait, Vinyl Piper, I love the Dead. I'm just trolling Spins because I always knock them that, like, why would you listen to any of their studio albums?
Guys, we're not.
I love.
We're trolling a little bit here, but
I hold Jerry in very high regard.
Jason Ross, I still had a good time looking for ad records and spending time and listening at the listening station. What the deuce is a butt rock? Jill wants to know. Let me get through the rest of these comments and then we'll give you the quick rundown on that. Jill, AA, Nickelback, Three Doors Down, Creed. Okay, there you go. Rojas, jazz is a body of music. That lecturer likes John Mayer.
Wait, hold on. I want to go back to AA, Ryan's comment. So Nickelback, Three Doors Down, Creed, Stain, so just shitty music as butt rock. Is that what you guys are saying?
Well, so what's the difference between let me fix that. What's the difference between that stuff and like Stone Temple Pilots? Um,
Oh, I know. Artistry.
well, the thing is, yeah, I would say I would here's what I would say. I don't listen to Nickelback, Three Doors Down, or really Creed or Stained, I guess. I will listen to Stone Temple Pilots, Alice in Chains. But what's the difference? I guess I want to
The
ask
different
people.
the difference is
And don't
like
just say,
no, the difference is like uh usually you take your influence and regress. I think that's the difference. No
is that
one
kind
no
of what
one takes
happened?
their I think so.
And I'm saying, what's the difference? How come people are saying butt rock, which I hate the term. I'll never use it except trolling. Why are they putting the groups? And maybe you're going to answer this, but this I want to be clear about my question before you go. Why are they saying Nickelback, Three Doors Down, Creed, and Stain, but they're not saying Alice in Chains and Soundgarden and I forget whoever else I said.
Because that was two totally different eras. Like those guys, most of those guys were dead by the time Creed was popular. Like, or
Sadly,
or or
not
or like
most.
in rehab, or like the best 3 or 4 albums from each group just kind of stopped. Like that's like I
When
guess
did Nickelback
Creed,
come out? Is that like a
like
2000s?
yeah, the 2000s, like shiny CD pre-digital
Okay,
world.
okay.
I'm just bitter about this because this was happening the same time like the country resurgence happened, and I happened to work in a music store during that time, and it was ugly, man. And it's not so much the music, it's more of like the people I associated with that I knew listened to that music, and I didn't like them too much either. So
Okay, so there you go. So
it's
now you get
I tell you what, it's like if people don't like the Grateful Dead because they hate hippies, it's kind of like I don't like butt rock because I know the people I remember used to buy those albums, and they were
okay.
tools.
Okay. I didn't realize they were that far apart. Well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
okay. I thought maybe they were
10
like
years at 10
starting
years
out
is a
in the
long
90s.
time. 10 years is a long time. 84 to 94 is the equivalent, obviously to 84 to 94 to 2004 that's a big time
It's
in
true.
music style. Yeah.
Okay. Uh Groove Seeker, well, I'm a record hunter, rummage, sales, secondhand stores. Yeah. Grab the
So
Grateful Dead, Wyoming
just
Dade.
buy every
Absolutely.
Grateful Dead thing you
Just buy them
see.
all.
Even Go to Heaven. Fuck it. Play it loud.
Thank you. Yes, he said it.
I actually saw I
Alabama
saw
getaway.
I saw Dylan do Alabama Getaway with the Dead, not the Grateful Dead, with the Dead, and it was pretty cool.
Oh, really? That's cool.
I don't like butt rock because I
Put
hate
that
meth
on your
hippies.
tombstone.
Well, Tokyo, you and I know that we could also hate Fish for the same reasons.
Is Fish butt rock?
No, but they have meth hippies in a lot, in the parking lot a lot.
So I already asked you, they have spinners too, right? So the spinners went from the Grateful Dead shows to the Fish shows.
I think the daughters and sons of Spinners went from the Grateful Dead shows to Fish shows.
Uh, um, Vinyl Piper, don't listen to them, Wyoming Dave. If you see Grateful Dead in the wild, just pick it up. Yeah. Wyoming
Yeah.
Dave, Piper, yeah, okay, talking to somebody else. AA, one generation later, AA, maybe two genres later. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point, 2
It's a
genres
little,
later.
I don't want to say it's after my time, but I was listening to less and less new music during that time. So, um, alternative rock and grunge versus butt rock. Decoy Cards sounds like people went, they're similar to those other bands, but we don't like them, so let's call them something else. Thank you. That's all I'm trying to get out of everybody. Let's just agree that well, like the guys that did that yacht rock documentary are the guys that invented the word, right? The term yacht rock.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
I'm
won't
pretty
watch
sure
that.
yeah, I'm not
I'm
gonna
not
watch it either, but that's the thing, right? So they're just trying to justify their own creation. Um,
and they tried to add credibility by putting Steely Dan in the category, and Steely
and
Dan's
what did
above them.
Steely Dan say? Go ahead.
Yeah, go fuck yourself or
Thank you.
whatever.
All right. Sounds
I mean, Michael McDonald sang backup for Steely Dan. He's like the patron saint of yacht rock. So I mean, that just sums it up right there.
um, I don't like butt rock because I hate meth hippies. Yeah, okay. Tokyo is your favorite band, Puddle of Mud. Uh, this is a good discussion. Okay.
So
There's a
good.
few fish hippies in the VC. Well, we got one of them. You're looking at one of them right there.
I'm not a hippie. Maybe
And
a
his
credit
name,
card
it
hippie.
doesn't say spins vinyl right underneath his face. Um, Chris, are you buying the 60 CD 60th anniversary box set? I ordered the 6 LP comp. The Grateful Dead we're talking about now, right?
Yeah, so I was actually gonna buy the download instead of the CD, but it's the same price, so now I'm just boycotting it. That's ridiculous. How could the download be the same price as the CD?
That's true. Come on.
So I'm hoping that they're just gonna let me stream it.
I didn't know they were doing a 6 LP comp, but that seems like a massive compromise.
Yeah,
What
I'm
is it?
not I'm it's Grateful Dead on LP live. It's like I have the 3 vault. I think I have the 3 vaults. I have 72 obviously, and I have Skull and Roses, but like I stream so much of that live stuff, or
You
I
got a
have
good
it
Dead
on the
set.
hard drive. No, I just passed on it at Barnes& and Noble the other day. I was like, "Nah."
Bro,
Well, I also have a lot of that
it's not
stuff
because
on,
you don't
like,
like it, it's because you don't want it on wax.
no, it's just too much, it's just too much, and I have a lot of that stuff, like, whether it's official release or soundboards on my hard drives. I could just I'll probably have some of those shows in that set, I would think. I don't know.
And you call yourself a vinyl collector.
I don't know what I am anymore after these streams. I'm confused.
Now he's been exposed to the good, the bad, and the ugly of the VC. He's like, you know what, dude? I'm gonna sell all my records. I can't deal with this. Jill's Music Corner. We had an old game called Rock Band. That's how I got into music. I wish they put all the songs in one vinyl. Yeah, Rock Band, famously with the Pretenders. What's the tune? That's the only one I would play was the Pretenders song on Guitar Band. Or is that what it's called? Guitar Hero. Damn, which one was it now?
Fish was on Guitar Hero once.
Tattooed Love Boys. Is that the name of the song? Someone fact check me. Great song. And I learned to love it from Guitar Hero. So, all right.
Well, Spins, this was fun, but I think I've reached my limit.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can see the sun has gone down where Groove Seeker is. And we got to put him to bed. Woo, that was fun.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody's comments. Today? I don't think so. I don't think we ever will. I think that's the whole point of it.
Exactly. It's just fun to talk about. We don't hate reissues. We hate some. We hate the fact that it matters to us because we love vinyl so much that we have to put up with all of it. All of it. Sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, I think he started to say, thank you everyone for being here. Thanks for the comments. You guys rock. Jill's Music Corner. Thank you so much for being here. Decoy Cards. Rock Band is how we got all those official, unofficial instrumentals. Yeah. Tokyo in the house, all the way from Tokyo. Jazzy Jeff, thank you. AA, thank you.
Vinyl Dreamscape,
Vinyl Piper, Wyoming Dave. Love all you guys. Even Mr. Rojas. Thanks for being here, Jay.
No,
appreciate you.
Don't thank that guy. Don't thank that guy.
He's just a troublemaker. And everyone else. Appreciate you guys. Love you guys. We'll see you again. I'll be back tomorrow. In fact, I have an hour with you know him from the Surface Noise streams. Jose Moreno Ron will be here.
Whoa.
Guitar player, record label owner, will be coming to us tomorrow. That is going to be a fun one. So definitely check that out. Yeah, so hopefully I'll see you guys tomorrow. Groove Seeker will be back on next Monday for another one, dude.
Be here.
All right. That was Your Brain on Vinyl, guys. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys next time.